As a result of World War I, the Weimar Republic faced severe consequences such as political instability, collapse of economy, and social unrest. The Treaty of Versailles, which was signed to officially end World War I in 1919, was like a punishment given to Germany for its role in World War I, such as territorial losses, war reparations, and disarmament, which dragged the country into turmoil. This instability led the way to the rise of Nazi regime and Adolf Hitler. He emerged as a savior, promising glory to Germany back. The Reichstag fire was a crucial step in the rise of Nazi regime, suppressing the threats coming from communist and socialist parties. After the burning down of the parliament building, Hitler forced the President Paul von Hindenburg to sign the Reichstag fire decree, which took away people's freedom. The Reichstag fire also provided Hitler a reason to justify the Enabling Act. This act was a huge step for Hitler to take total control, enabling him to establish a totalitarian regime. He killed or imprisoned his political opponents who may pose a threat to his authority. German people wanted to blame someone, and Hitler gave them what they wanted. Using propaganda effectively and successfully, he manipulated public opinion, convincing many that persecution of Jews and other minorities, including disabled individuals, homosexuals, communists, and socialists, was necessary for purifying Germany.
Let's continue with persecution of Jews. As you all know that they are the fragment of World War II, the persecution inflicted by Nazis is sorrowful for the human history, especially for the Jews, since they were killed or tortured by Nazis. That the Hitler hates Jews is explained by both antisemitism, which represents the hatred towards Jews, and the fact that they were responsible of problems in economy and politics in Europe. Jews' persecution started with the introduction of the Nuremberg laws in 1935, and a lot of restrictions about the Jews began. They were banned from marrying, their citizenship was removed, and they were not eligible to vote in the elections. As years continue, Jews pupils were prohibited from attending state schools and they were prevented from doing their jobs. In 1938, Nazis organized some attacks on Jews, and this violence was described as the beginning of the Holocaust. In this event, synagogues were destroyed, approximately 90 and 30,000 Jews were murdered and arrested, respectively. In addition, most of them were sent to concentration camps by Nazis. Furthermore, the Nazis built killing centers for the Jews in occupied Poland. They were taken by train or cattle cars. Thus, Jews were suffered in many negative situations.
Throughout the 1930s, Hitler held the view that mass emigration was the remedy for the Jewish problem. Hitler addressed this issue to German parliament in January 1939. He criticized the free world for not taking in Jewish immigrants and warned that the consequences of war would include the annihilation of European Jewry. In July, Hermann Göring approved the preparation for the final solution. Final solution refers to the genocide of Jews during the World War II. On December 12, 1941, Hitler told his close circle that the murder was to be extended to include German Jews, thereby including all the Jews of Europe in the plans for the final solution to the Jewish question. At the end of 1941 and early 1942, the Nazis established extermination camps, began deportations to them, and formed killing methods. The first gassing experiment was performed in Auschwitz in September 1941, and extermination camps at Belzec and Chelmno were constructed in the late fall. At the Wannsee Conference in January 1942, German government and SS leaders met to coordinate the extermination of every Jew in Europe. From this time until the end of the war in 1945, the final solution was officially Nazi policy and meant total extermination of Europe's Jews. The final solution to the Jewish question was the last stage of the Holocaust and took place from 1941 to 1945. The vast majority of Jews who died in the Holocaust were murdered as a part of the final solution. This plan culminated in the murder of 90% of Polish Jews and two-thirds of the Jews in Europe.
During the Holocaust, Jews opposed Nazi persecution with many courageous acts. In the Warsaw Ghetto, they fiercely resisted Nazi soldiers under the leadership of Mordecai Einelewicz and the Jewish Combat Organization. Similar uprisings took place in ghettos such as Vilna and Białystok, where violent protests were held against the oppressors. Alongside armed resistance, cultural challenge also developed. Secret schools and secret religious practices symbolize the unshakable spirit of humanity in the midst of despair. Some people risked their lives to shelter and protect Jews. In particular, German industrialist Oskar Schindler saved more than 1,000 Jews by employing them in his factory, while brave women Kashariot were smuggling vital messages and supplies into the ghettos. Despite the dangerous conditions, a daring plan was devised to sabotage the gas chambers at Auschwitz, but tragically, many participants were captured and executed. Moreover, rescue efforts extended beyond Jewish communities as non-Jews played important roles in preserving lives. Yad Vashem's recognition of more than 26,500 righteous among the nations underscores the selflessness of those who risked everything to shelter Jews, often hiding them in their own homes. Across Europe, resistance took numerous forms, from armed rebellion to preservation of Jewish cultural heritage and religious traditions.
Arriving at the end, we discuss the topic of horrendous experiences of Jews under Nazi Germany. This topic represents an unprecedented human suffering and resilience in human history. Nazis, led by Adolf Hitler, adapt several military strategies and tactics, which heavily influenced the course of history and torture faced by Jews. Through systematic persecution and torture, the main goal was not only exterminate people, but to erase their dignity, humanity, and memory. From gas chambers to ghettos, Jews had to undergo through inhumane horrors like constant starvation, medical experimentation, concentration camps, at the end constant age of death. In the way we discuss this dark period of the history, it is crucial to remember the victims of this genocide. Therefore, memorials, museums, and educational programs around the world ensure that the memory of the Holocaust remains alive. The legacy of these war crimes resulted in constant reminders to the world of values like tolerance and justice, resulting in commitment to never forget, ensuring that such crimes are never repeated. Through remembrance and education of what happened under the rule of Nazi Germany, a better way and better future is forged.